The moral ledger, settling the ancestral debt in your career. You have followed the lean startup method. You hired the best consultant. You have pivoted, rebranded, and grinded for 18 hours a day. So why does it feel like your business has a glass ceiling made of iron? Why does success feel like a betrayal to your family, even when they tell you they want you to win?
Today, we step into the Constellation Field to help a founder who realized her company wasn't just selling a product. It was attempting to pay back a moral debt from 1920. We are looking at the ghost in the boardroom and how your professional stagnation might actually be a hidden act of loyalty to a tragedy you never even knew happened. We are moving from the business plan to the family soul. Welcome to Younique Yet Connected. I am Nolitha Fendon Itolokazi, the explorer of the unseen, the unheard, and the untold. The space holder, seeker, and sacred witness in the work of systemic family constellations. And as always, I'm not alone, Kinga and Nika on the other side of the virtual. Over to you, Kings.
Thank you, Noli. Hello, dear listeners and co-editors. Hello, Nick. This is where we explore the hidden patterns that shape our lives. I am Kinga Siladi, facilitator and guide through the field where unseen truths rise to the surface. Together, we walk the invisible terrain of the family soul, where the wisdom that speaks is when the system reveals itself.
Thank you for joining our movement of translating the wisdom of systemic family constellations into a practical language that all of us can easily understand and, most importantly, implement in our daily lives. The glass ceiling of invisible loyalties. Our client today is a brilliant entrepreneur. She launched a tech platform that should have taken off months ago. The market is ready, the product is flawless, and the feedback is stellar. Yet every time a major deal is about to close, the kind of deal that would change her life, it falls through at the last second.
She called it self-sabotage. She was convinced she had a poverty mindset and spent thousands on coaches. But in the field, we don't look at the mindset as an isolated brain function. We look at the seat of authority. We ask her, when you sit in your CEO chair, who is sitting behind you?
When she closed her eyes, she didn't see her board of directors. She saw a cold, empty space. We set up a representative for the client, her business, and a representative for the big success. The client couldn't even look at the business. Her eyes were glued to the floor behind her.
I brought in a representative for whatever she was staring at. As soon as this person stood there, the client started to shake. She said, I feel like if I make this $1 million profit, I am stealing it from him. The him was her great-grandfather, a man who had been erased from the family history.
In 1920, this man was a wealthy landowner. In a single night, through a combination of political upheaval and perceived shameful failure, he lost everything. He died in poverty, and the family hushed his story to maintain their dignity. The shame of his loss became a secret debt.
This is the systemic identification, The client was unconsciously staying small and failing to stay in solidarity with the man the family had cast out. Her business wasn't a business. It was a monument to his poverty. She was refusing to be bigger than the man they had shamed.
We noticed that the business representative felt like an orphan. Because the client was looking backward at the great-grandfather, the business had no mother or father to guide it. A business without a founder's full presence is like a car with no driver. It just rolls until it hits a wall.
The client realized that her sabotage was actually an act of love. She thought that by failing, she was keeping her great-grandfather company in his misery. She felt that being wealthy was a form of abandonment of the family's shared struggle.
We see this often in first-generation successes. The guilt of the achiever is really about the money itself. It's about the distance the money creates between us and those who suffered. We stay poor to stay one of them.
I asked her to look at the great-grandfather. He stood there, looking at her with a look of absolute confusion. He didn't want her failure. He didn't need her to be poor to love him. In fact, her poverty was making his sacrifice feel meaningless.
This is the moral ledger. We think we are balancing the scales by suffering, but we are actually adding to the weight. We had to show her that her great-grandfather's fate was his own, and it was not a debt she was required to pay.
We had to look at her business and say, I have been using you to hide my grandfather's shame. I am sorry. The business representative suddenly stood taller. It was as if a heavy trap had been lifted off the company's potential.
A business cannot strive if it's being used as a hospital for ancestral trauma. It is meant to be a vehicle for the future, not a museum for the past. She had to learn to separate her professional goals from her family's tragedies.
The client's eyes began to shift. For the first time, she looked at the big success representative. It looked bright, almost blinding. She realized she had been allergic to the light of success because it illuminated the darkness of her family history.
The first step was acknowledging that the ghost in the boardroom was there. You cannot fix a business problem with a business solution if the root is systemic. You have to settle the accounts with the ancestors before you can close the deals with the clients.
As the great-grandfather started to settle into his own dignity, the moral ceiling over the client's head began to crack. We were ready to move deeper into the specific dynamics of the paternal debt.
Settling the paternal debt. We moved the focus to her father. While the great-grandfather was the source of the shame, her father was the one who had lived with the grind. He was a man who worked 3 jobs and never saw the fruits of his labor. He died tired, with a heart full of almosts.
The client felt that if she made money easily through tech and innovation, she was mocking her father's hard physical labor. She felt that for work to be valid, it had to be exhausting. If she wasn't burning out, she felt like a fraud.
This is the burden of the easy life. We often create hardship in our modern careers just to match the frequency of our parents' struggle. We choose the difficult clients and the impossible deadlines because struggle feels like home.
We brought in the father's representative. He looked at his daughter's tech business and smiled. He said, "I worked that hard so that you wouldn't have to. My sweat was meant to be the water for your garden, not a chain for your feet."
The client burst into tears. She realized she had been honoring her father by repeating his exhaustion instead of receiving his gift. She was treating her life like a debt she had to pay back, rather than the legacy she was meant to grow.
We used the sentence, "Father, I take what you gave me and I will do something great with it." This is the only way to truly honor a parent's sacrifice. To waste the opportunity by being just as tired as they were is the real betrayal.
We watched as the tiredness energy left the client's body. Her posture changed. She stopped looking like a laborer and started looking like an architect. She was no longer working for her father. She was working from the foundation he built.
This shift is crucial for leadership. You cannot lead a team if you are constantly looking for a way to suffer. A leader who is carrying the family's exhaustion will eventually project that onto their employees, creating a toxic culture of the grind.
She realized that her success was the profit of her father's life. When she wins, he wins. The debt is settled not through her suffering, but through her thriving. This is the ultimate system ROI, return on investment.
But there was still a lingering issue. Whenever she thought about her worth, she felt arrogant. She felt that if she stood in her full power, she would be too much for the men in her lineage. We had to address the gilded cage of the good daughter.
She had been playing small to keep her father and grandfathers feeling big. She didn't want to outshine the man who had been broken by the world. She was protecting their fragile dignity with her own stagnation.
I asked the father and great-grandfather representatives to stand together. I asked them, "Do you feel smaller when she shines?" They both shook their heads. They looked proud. They looked like kings watching a queen take her throne.
The arrogance she felt was actually just authentic power. We confuse the two when we have been taught that being small is the same as being humble. True humility is standing in the size God made you.
She had to say to them, "I am the daughter who went further. I am the one who made the profit. I do this in your name, but I do it with my own hands." The air in the room became crisp and clear.
The moral ledger was being balanced. The old money and the new money were finally in conversation. She wasn't stealing from the past. She was investing in the future of the entire family line.
The memory of the great-grandfather in the boardroom was no longer a haunting presence. He was now a silent partner, providing the wisdom of the past without the weight of the shame. She was ready to occupy the CEO chair. You are still listening to Younique Yet Connected. The theme for this episode is the moral ledger, settling the ancestral debt in your career. Remember to like, share, and subscribe at www.youniqueyetconnected.com.
Occupying the CEO chair of authenticity. Now that the ancestors were settled, the client had to face the business and the big success representatives again. But now she wasn't looking at them through the lens of guilt. She was looking at them as partners. This shift in gaze is the fundamental difference between a founder who is surviving and a founder who is occupying.
We noticed that the business's representative was still a bit hesitant. They said, "I don't know who is in charge. One minute she is a visionary, and the next she is a little girl looking for permission." This is the double bind of the female leader, the internal struggle between the good daughter and the powerful executive.
She had been vacillating between the boss and the rescuer. In her business, she was trying to save her employees the same way she tried to save her family. She was overgiving, overworking, and failing to hold boundaries, creating a system where her own energy was being drained to keep everyone else comfortable.
We realized that her business was becoming a reenactment of her family system. Her problematic lead developer was acting just like her rebellious brother. Her needy assistant was acting like her overwhelmed mother. This is what happens when the field is left unaddressed. It replicates itself in the office.
If you don't settle your family dynamics, you will simply recreate them in your company. Your staff will unconsciously step into the empty roles of your siblings and parents. You end up managing a family instead of a firm. And because you cannot fire your family, your business becomes paralyzed by emotional baggage.
We had her look at the business and say, "You are not my family. My employees are not my children. I am the CEO and I'm here to lead, not to rescue." The business's representative exhaled in a massive sigh of relief. It finally had an adult at the helm, which is the only way a company can grow safely.
A business wants to be led. It wants clarity, structure, and clear rank. When the founder is playing mother, the business becomes chaotic. When the founder is CEO, the business becomes productive. She had to learn that her authority was a gift to the company, not an act of aggression against her staff.
She had to find her inner king. Even though she is a woman, she needed to tap into that archetypical energy of the order giver. She had to stop asking for permission to be the one in charge of her own creation and realize that her vision was the sun around which the entire company revolved.
The big success representative moved closer. They said, "I've been waiting for the adult to show up. I couldn't come to the child." Success is a heavy energy. It requires an adult nervous system to hold it without breaking. The child wants to be liked. The adult is willing to be respected, even if they aren't understood.
She stood in her adult state, fully present, back straight, eyes on the goal. She realized that her business wasn't a shameful secret. It was a service to the world. By succeeding, she was creating jobs, solving problems, and generating life force that would benefit many people beyond her own bloodline.
The great-grandfather smiled from the back of the room. He was no longer a victim. He was the ancestor of an empress. His story had been transformed from a cautionary tale into a foundational myth. He didn't need her pity. He needed her to use the drive he had once possessed to build something lasting.
This is the beauty of integration. We don't delete the past, we repurpose it. The same ambition that drove the great-grandfather to acquire land was now driving the great-granddaughter to acquire market share. But this time, it was being done in the light, without the weight of the previous generation's failure.
She reached out and took the hand of the big business representative. It wasn't a desperate grab. It was a steady, mutual agreement. "I'm ready for you," she said. And the big success replied, "I've always been here, but you were looking at the floor. Now that you are looking at me, we can move."
The moral ledger was closed. The debts were paid. The boss was honored. All that was left was the work, the clean, joyful, productive work of a woman who finally knows she belongs at the head of the table. She no longer felt the need to apologize for her competence or her ambition.
As she left the field, she didn't look like an entrepreneur who was trying. She looked like an owner who had already won. The glass ceiling had been shattered, not by effort, but by truth. She was finally occupying the space that had been reserved for her since the day her business was born.
This is the ultimate goal of our work here at Younique Yet Connected, to get you out of the hospital of your family trauma and into the throne of your own life. When the soul is in order, the CEO can finally do her job without looking over her shoulder for the ghost of the 1920s.
You are still listening to Younique Yet Connected. We are settling the accounts of the past to build the fortress of the future. Thank you for your contribution in helping us to be chosen as the top 10 South Africa family podcast by FeedSpot. The Systemic Architecture of Abundance. By the end of the session, the client understood that abundance isn't a number in the bank account. It's a state of systemic alignment. When you are in your right place, the resources flow because the path is clear. When you are out of place, trying to be someone else, everything is an uphill struggle.
She realized that her sabotage was her soul's way of telling her that she was out of order. Her soul was more loyal to her great-grandfather than it was to her business plan. And in a fight between the soul and the plan, the soul always wins. You cannot outthink a systemic entanglement with a clever marketing strategy.
The key lesson for all of us is that your career is an extension of your family tree. If there are dead branches or unseen roots of shame and loss, they will eventually affect the fruit you produce in the modern world. You cannot have a healthy harvest if the soil is poisoned by unacknowledged grief or unpaid moral debts.
We must learn to look at our professional failures as systemic questions. Instead of asking, "What am I doing wrong?" ask, "Who am I being loyal to in this failure? Whose debt am I trying to pay?" This shift in perspective moves you from a place of self-blame to a place of systemic inquiry and eventual release.
Honor your ancestors by being unapologetically successful. Don't repeat their poverty to show you love them. Use the life they gave you to create something they never could. Your joy is their greatest reward. They didn't survive the hardships of the past so that you could stay in the same mud out of sense of solidarity.
When you sit at your desk tomorrow, imagine your ancestors standing behind you, not as judges, but as a vast reservoir of strength. They are the ones who survived so that you could thrive. Let their survival energy become your thrive energy, transforming their struggle into the fuel for your innovation and growth.
The moral ledger is not about what you owe the past. It's about what you owe the future. By clearing your own path, you are making it easier for your children and their children to stand in their own power. You are effectively updating the software of the entire family line for generations to come.
The ghost in the boardroom is only a ghost as long as he is unseen. Once you look him in the eye and give him a place of honor, he becomes a guardian. He becomes the one who watches your back while you look ahead, providing a sense of protection that allows you to take bigger risks and dream larger dreams.
So if you're feeling stuck, stop looking at the spreadsheets for a moment. Look at the field. Look at the people who came before you. Reclaim your seat at the table. You are the one the ancestors have been waiting for, the one who can finally turn their effort into enduring success.
It is time to move from rescuing the past to occupying the present. Your business is waiting for the real you to arrive, not the guilty daughter, not the tired laborer, but the visionary leader. Success is not a sin. It is a systemic duty that allows the life force to continue expanding through you.
Join us as we continue to translate these deep truths into practical movements. Because when you change your position in the field, the world around you has no choice but to follow. The market, your clients, and your team will all respond to the new authority you carry in your bones.
You are unique, yet you are connected to a lineage of survivors. Use that connection. Stand tall. The boardroom of your life is ready for a CEO. You have the permission of every single person who came before you to be the most successful version of yourself that has ever existed.
We see this transformation time and time again. When the moral ledger is settled, the iron ceiling dissolves. It turns out it wasn't iron at all. It was just a shadow that disappears when the light of truth is turned on. You are finally free to earn, to grow, and to lead.
The profit you make is a celebration of your heritage. The power you hold is a tribute to their resilience. Every deal you close is the thank you to the great-grandfather who lost his land, because you are showing the world that his blood still carries the seed of greatness.
Let's take this energy into our reflection and see where your own moral ledger might be waiting for a final signature of release. You are the only one who can sign it. You are the only one who can decide that the debt is finally paid in full.
Take a deep breath. Feel the chair beneath you. Feel the floor. You are here. You are now. You are the living proof that your ancestors succeeded. Now let's see what you can build with that success as your foundation.
Reflection and practical application. We invite you to do a systemic audit of your professional life. Think about the one area where you feel blocked, no matter how hard you work.
Close your eyes. If you were to become 10 times more successful tomorrow, if you were truly the empress of your field, who in your family would you feel guilty toward? Whose smallness would you be outshining? The identification. Imagine that person standing in front of you, see their struggle, see their hard life. Feel the knot of loyalty in your stomach that says, I will stay small so you don't feel alone. Acknowledge that this knot is actually an expression of love, however unhelpful it may be in your career. The sentence of release. Say to them internally, I see your hard life. I honor your struggle. But I am not you. I leave your faith and your poverty with you. I choose to be successful in your honor as the prophet of your life. Please look kindly upon me if I do well. The turning. Not turn your back to them and look toward your future. Imagine your success standing there like a bright sun. Take one step toward it. And say, I am ready. I occupy my place. I am the CEO of my life. Feel the strength of that lineage behind you, pushing you forward instead of pulling you back.
Thank you, Kings, for that beautiful exercise. Touched me so much. In our next episode, our milestone episode 100, we are doing something truly special. We are looking at the world soul.
We are looking at how all these individual threads, mother's necklaces, father's crowns, and ancestral deaths, weave together into a collective tapestry of global healing. Don't miss the grand finale of this series.
A big thank you to you for listening to our episode, and to Nick Mons from That Guy Productions for making us sound fabulous and on point. We are thrilled to be ranked among the best 30 family therapy and the best 10 family secrets podcasts by a million podcasts.
For episode 100, tune in on Sunday, 2nd of August 2026. Stay unique, stay connected, and remember you are one of a kind, and we can only create a really meaningful podcast together. Siyabulela, köszönöm, bayadanki. Thank you.
Siyabulela, kosonom, bayadanki. Thank you.
find your inner peace.